we have Scott DiGregorio here with us today. We did an online event with Scott where we facilitated a bulletproof buyer presentation. So we're going to get a little bit of background from Scott as well about his business, his activity on social media, because that really plays a big part in the success of this event. But we're going to be talking about how you can facilitate an online event similar to what Scott did. So this does not even have to be the bulletproof buyer presentation. It can be your value as an art of homeownership partner. It can be an event for your financial advisors or whatever strategic partners you're really choosing to focus on. So we just want to go through that strategy and the actual execution of an online event like this, because it really can drive, as we've seen with Scott, it can really drive appointments with realtors, just overall exposure for yourself and your brand. So we're going to be going through the strategy of that. And, hopefully we can get all of you kicked off with some online events. So Scott, I want to say thank you so much for jumping on with us today and welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Val, for having me.
Of course. So Scott, can you tell everyone a little bit about, because like I said, I think your online presence and what you do on social media on a regular basis played a big part in the success of this event. So can you talk a little bit about just your day-to-day activity on social media and how you really stay in front of your audience?
Yeah, sure, Val. So, I started doing events. It was interesting. Actually, I started doing Facebook Lives back when COVID hit. And frankly, it didn't start off as a business thing. It just started off, I was frustrated with the lack of real financial information that was being put out. And, anybody that was in the business when COVID hit, like the mortgage industry broke. And nobody was talking about it. So I started a series called Financial Chaos. And it was a Facebook Live that I would do 5 days a week. And excuse me, I learned at one point that if you do it at the same time every day, the algorithms of Facebook kind of pick it up. So I started doing it Facebook Live 5 days a week at noon. And it has just continued. It was very interesting to me. Before I strategically, I took a couple of months off. I was getting ready to join Neo and switch things around, and I wanted to kind of create some suspense. And I was having people stop me at Lowe's or the grocery store or whatnot saying, hey, I haven't seen your videos, Scott. Why have you stopped doing them? So that's something that I do on a regular basis. And the content a lot of time comes from Barry Habib or, any of the other kind of forecasters that are, big names in the mortgage industry. Sometimes it's my own take on things. And that's something I've been doing for a real long time. And it's just proven to be very, very effective for me.
And can you go a little bit into that content? So it's going over kind of like just what's happening in the market, just general. I know you kind of talk a lot about the mission of like Art of Homeownership and Neo on those presentations or those Facebook Lives, but is there anything kind of like outside the lines of that, or where do you get the content inspiration from?
Like I said, I get a lot of it from Barry Habib. I'm a big fan of Barry's, and sometimes I read the Crispin report. So I just really take existing information that's out there and kind of regurgitate it. Sometimes, Val, I'll have my own take on things, whatever it is. Like I did one, I had gotten some information recently that the inventory in my market had increased by 9%. And super impromptu, I literally walked into my backyard, grabbed my phone, and did a quick Facebook Live. And within about 4 days, I had about 245 views. And it's probably worth mentioning, I average about 5,000 views a month and about 500 shares a month. Now that number is a little misleading because about half of those shares are me, because when I post the video, I'll share it to all these different real estate related groups that I'm in.
Yeah.
So taking those out, I'm averaging about 60,000 views a year and 3,000 shares a year.
Wow.
And about 75% of the people that come to me reference the videos. And I would say about half of them came to me strict, like the video is the lead source. The other half of them were referred to me and in their research came upon the videos. And that's proven very well, because one of the things that was surprising to me at the time, but logical to me in hindsight, was that the people who come to me for my videos trust me more than anybody else, because they feel like they've gotten to know me. And Ryan Grant says all the time, the greatest referral you could receive is somebody not coming to you for a loan, but somebody coming to you for advice. And I get that by far the most with my video leads.
Yep. And that is, I say all the time, a lot of people get discouraged because they're starting to be active on social media and they're not getting direct leads from the content that they're putting out. And I always say, you can't just measure the ROI on your social media content because there's so many other things that you don't think about, like how you're saying someone coming to you and maybe finding you online and then going and looking at your content and building that trust and then ultimately going with you. So if they go look you up and you don't have anything there, you're losing trust and could lose out on that deal, but you'll never know that because they'll never come to you. So there's so many different things that can really pay off from having a presence on social media. Yeah. And Scott, how did you feel? Because this is a big obstacle for a lot of people getting started on social, is especially with live video. How did you feel in the very beginning, comfortability wise? Was there like a point in time where you were super uncomfortable on camera and had to get over that?
Yeah, so I started speaking years ago. So I'm at this point now, I'm very comfortable in front of a camera. I was terrified at the beginning. And actually the first couple of times I held a live event, I made a complete buffoon out of myself. And to the point where I remember scrapping it and then doing a presentation alone in the conference room, recording myself and then critiquing the recording for about 6 months. So it was not natural to me at the beginning at all. What I've since come to realize is that all of the stuff I was stressing over, people don't really give a crap about. Like, I record my videos with my iPhone. I think it's an 11. I have a $20 tripod thing from Amazon that I bought. There's times I screw up my own name. Sometimes I just leave all the real stuff in there because that's who I am. And another thing I've learned and come to realize is that the people that I rub the wrong way, I'd rather rub them the wrong way that way instead of having to spend an hour on the phone with them and then rub them the wrong way where they could go somewhere else. Because either way, if I'm to New York for people or I'm to this or I'm to that, cool, figure that out before you end up on my calendar.
Yeah.
So those two realizations helped me get over that fear probably more than anything else.
Right. You're going to attract the right people if you're being authentic and who you are on social media, is what we always say.
Absolutely.
So I love that. Okay, so that's a little bit of background about Scott and just how he is on social media. Now, we're getting into the actual event. For anyone who's rolling in here a little late, I think someone is raising their hand. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. Hey, Tom.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Pretty good.
Scott and I talked about a week ago about this same subject, and I just kind of wanted to add to what you guys were talking about right there. Just getting comfortable on camera. Now, when I first started going live, I kind of did the same thing. And Scott, you didn't tell me that you did all this on our meeting the other day.
Sorry, bud.
But I kind of did what Scott did, and I started going live, and someone actually challenged me to go live. So it was something that, like, I don't back down from a challenge. So I went ahead and did it. And he goes, when you do your first video, tell everyone that this is your first video, you're nervous, whatever. And then they'll support you. And then they started watching. I told Scott, I started doing a Monday morning market update. Again, it was a lot of stuff Barry was talking about. And then an insurance agent reached out to me and he said, dude, your show is super boring. He goes, why? He goes, why don't you start sending me some referrals instead of going live all the time? And I said, hey, I go, well, why don't you come on? I'll interview you and then you can get your own referrals. And that started my live show. And so I just started having people come in from the industry, bringing me 7 questions they wanted me to ask. Same thing as Scott had a cheap camera, tripod, sometimes they were even shot with my cell phone. And it became a following, like Scott was saying. I'd go to events and they'd be like, hey, you got to meet this guy. This is Tom that has the live Facebook show. And my first ones, you can go back on my Facebook, my first ones were absolutely horrendous. But then like I got to the point, I interviewed my most watched interview was an HVAC guy. And I got like 3,000 views just on him because I was tagging those people that I was interviewing, getting out to all their people as the mortgage professional, as well as promoting their business. So that really worked well for me. And Scott and I talked a little bit about that last week. So just wanted to add that in real quick for people that are, scared to get on camera or whatever that may be. Obviously I have a face for radio, so it wasn't something I was comfortable with at first, but once I started doing it, I got comfortable, and people were, man, I'll tell you, my last partner, he goes, dude, you're getting a lot of leads from, or you're getting a lot of deals from Facebook. He goes, just know that that's going to go away eventually. He told me that, and he's never marketed on Facebook, never done anything like that, and he's losing out on a ton of business by then not doing so.
Yeah.
So
And I will say, Tom, I feel like that's jumping into ice cold water right off the bat. Like going right into live video is probably the route least traveled. I would say a lot of people want to do really short, like even stories to get started and get comfortable behind a camera, and then eventually build up to live. But I think, in that case, you're out there and you're going to get over the fear no matter what, because you have to. Like if you're on video and you're live, you're going to be forced to do it. And then once you keep doing it, you just get more and more comfortable. So I think that's a good way to go about it. But a lot of people just get a little freaked out.
Well,
but that's awesome. So good for you.
And as Scott was saying, you have to do it consistently. You have to be consistent on it. And then also one thing that Scott said that resonated with me as well is Facebook Live makes you real.
Yeah.
It makes you real. Some of these short videos and stuff like that, I don't think it makes you as real as a Facebook Live, because I'm fumbling over words or whatever it is, but that's me, and that's what people appreciated.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I love that.
And Val, to try to help the audience from a motivation standpoint, Tom and I have both had similar results, and I loved, and I'm gonna start doing it. I thought Tom's idea of interviewing people and then connecting to their databases is really smart. But we're both closing about $10 or $12 million a year off of Facebook. And if you could generate that kind of business and without spending any dollars, that's a gold mine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge missed opportunity if you're not.
100%. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Thanks for jumping in.
Yep.
Okay, so to get into the actual live event that we put on, Scott, how did you decide the topic and the audience that you wanted to address during this Facebook Live?
So the first thought that crossed my mind was just simply, what is the biggest problem out there that I could solve? And the biggest problem out there for my clients and my realtor partners is obviously getting offers accepted. The Bulletproof Buyer presentation is a rock star answer to that, to that challenge. So that was that. I wanted to reach out to the real estate community. It's a great way to let people know that you are an Art of Homeownership member and you have the superpower that your peers do not have. And I thought it was just a perfect way to showcase that. So it was solely based off of realtors. I did have some buyers on there, but it was predominantly realtors that I was going after. And I think whenever you're putting together content, it should be geared towards solving a problem that people are facing, because that's how you're going to get the greatest engagement and audience.
Yes, absolutely. And I was actually just talking to another loan officer recently, and they were debating what topic or like how to stay in front of their audience. And they came to what they thought was the conclusion of, well, I don't need to present on something. I just need to show who I am and be kind of in front of them. But what you're really trying to do, and especially in this case, like Scott, you are inviting realtors in your area that you weren't currently working with. So you're inviting as many people as possible. And that initial, whatever they see right off the bat from you is their initial perspective and how they think of you all the time. So if you're just in front of them, just showing them who you are, yeah, that's great, but you need to provide some sort of value to them in order to gain their trust, because otherwise they're just, yeah, they might like you as a person, but they need to see that you have strategies that are going to solve their problems. So in this market, there's so many problems. There's so many different topics that you could present on in order to solve those. And the bulletproof buyer is like one of the best examples of that. So it was a great topic, great audience to address. And can you share how many people you reached in order to RSVP for the event, and then how many actually showed up to the
so
Facebook
as far
Live?
as the promotion, for one thing, I pushed it on my Facebook Lives that I do all the time. That was a big piece of it. I also have a database of realtors, about 2,000 or so agents on there. So I sent out an email blast to them. I also did a Facebook ad, and this is something, Val, that was very effective in hindsight, and I really wish I had doubled down more of it. So I took just the image of the event. I threw together a Facebook ad to go after realtors. I put a maximum budget of $200. Facebook only ended up spending about $78 of that money. And I got over 20 registrations from that. So it's hard to know what the total reach was, but just the way the algorithms work, but I clearly got in front of thousands of people. And we ended up with 109 registrations. And then you could speak to this better than I can. It seemed like actual attendance was bouncing around between like 28 and 42. And then subsequently, because obviously the event stays on as a post, last time I looked a couple of days ago, I was at about 165 or 175 views.
Yeah, that's great. And for context, for everyone that wants to put on an event like this, number one, we did not collect registrations before the event. So no one was filling out a form in order to actually register to go to the event. What we did was create a Facebook Live event page, or just like a Facebook event page, so that people could RSVP. So they didn't need to take any other action other than pressing a button saying that they were going, and then they would get that notification the day of that they had an event to go to that day. So so kind of the strategy behind that was we got a lot of people that they committed to coming, and you're never going to get even close to 100%, unfortunately, especially for those live events, because people are busy, they forget about, especially realtors have a lot going on. So 109 people that RSVP'd. And then, like you said, Scott, it was around like 35, around there, 35 to 40 that showed up live, which is great. Those are great numbers. And people can also watch the recording of it because it stays on the Facebook page. So kind of the pros and cons of that, a lot of people want to host these types of webinars or like more strategic presentations on Zoom through a webinar, just like we are here. So it would still be the same concept of your attendees can't just speak. They're all muted. You can't see them, but you're just presenting on a certain topic. The only con with that is that on Facebook, you will get a lot more traction and exposure from people that you didn't directly send the link to for that webinar. So Facebook Live, anyone that follows your page, or even people that aren't following your page, can see that Facebook Live rather than having to click on the specific webinar link in order to show up. So you just have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of it. But I really enjoy the Facebook Live side of things because you can get so much more exposure from it and a lot more people attending. Scott, would you have anything to add to that? Were you like pretty happy with the Facebook Live experience?
Yeah, I thought it went really well. The other thing that I've done subsequently, Val, that I think is good for anybody listening to consider is I've since started using that video as a marketing piece. So there's 3 different big team leaders that I know, but we don't do business together. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm going to shoot this over to you in Messenger. Do me a favor, take 45 minutes and watch it. And I'm going to follow up with you next week. And I think it's a really powerful tool to introduce AOH or the Neo experience, whatever, but to introduce our superpowers to an agent and open up a door a lot better than, hi, I'm Scott, I'm a loan officer, because they get those calls all the time.
Yeah. Well, even beforehand, I would say it's a reason to reach out to people. We have another loan officer that's doing a 2022, like the rest of 2022 market predictions, and just giving kind of what he thinks is going to happen or what's likely to happen in the market, and then how to educate your consumers, your clients, around that. So same thing, it's going to be for real estate agents. And he said, like, it's even a game changer to just be able to call up agents right now and say, hey, I'm holding this event and you should come. I'll send you all the information. So you just have a reason to connect with them, show them that you're creating value, show them that you have those strategies. So just any touch points that you can think of, it's still adding value. You have a reason to reach out to them. So during the event, Scott, so just for everyone that, again, would like to host one of these events, like I said, we did not ask for registrations beforehand, but on the flip side of that, we did, you obviously want to collect their contact information at some point or get some sort of action that you want them to take. So we, Scott, can you talk a little bit about the engagement during the event as far as both the comments or like the little quizzes that you were kind of putting out there, and
Sure.
then the form at the end in order to get that contact information?
Absolutely. So what I wanted to do at the beginning of this is I modified the Bulletproof Buyer presentation in the sense that I wanted to do a couple things for people. First off, I feel like in order to solve a problem, you have to do a really good job of solidifying that this is a problem. And then the second thing I wanted to do was I wanted the audience members to kind of relive their pain. So I found some statistics on the average number of homes that are shown to people before they're a successful contract, the amount of contracts written before a successful contract, the number of appraisals that come in low. So I put together this data and then I opened up with that and I wanted to create engagement and then handle those two psychology things that I mentioned. And so what I would do is I would ask a question on slide one, like multiple choice, A, B, C, and D. What do you think is the answer here? Then the second slide, I would give them the answer. And then the third slide, I would ask everybody into the chat room to, hey, we're going to use the honor system, but everybody put in the chat room the most contracts you've ever written before one was accepted. And whoever has the highest number, I'm actually going to send them a condolence prize. I'm going to send them out a book. So it was a way for me to follow up with people and engage. And I thought it was kind of funny to call it a condolence prize. And again, have them relive that psychology. And it really got the engagement going on the front end. And then on the back end, we did a survey where, kind of basic questions. Did you enjoy it? What did you find most and least valuable? But then at the end, the final question was whether or not they wanted to schedule a one-on-one coaching call with me to help them implement the ideas. And I had 11 people fill out the survey right after the event, 7 of which wanted to meet with me. Subsequently, 2 more people have filled out the survey, both of which wanted to meet with me. So I walked away with 9 realtor appointments from it. And on a $78 investment, I don't think you could do much better than that.
And what, 45 minutes? So you got 9 realtor meetings in basically 45 minutes time.
Yep.
That's amazing. Yeah, and those are really good numbers. I mean, and like we said, we kind of prefaced this with Scott has a really good social media presence. So he has people that are following him and are engaged with his content. So that really helped things. But just being in front of them and showing value and that you have these strategies is so impactful. And they're all hurting right now. Like realtors, they're struggling through this market. So they're looking for any sort of solutions. And if you come to them having those solutions, you're going to be that person that they come to for more answers. So I think it was really powerful. And Scott, what did you really talk about in those follow-up meetings, and where did you leave it as far as a relationship, or you haven't had the meetings yet? I'm sorry.
I've had 1 or 2 of them so far.
Okay.
And the meeting was really more about, I feel like once I've kind of shown my superpower, the meetings are going to be about kind of, again, like what are their struggles with things and how the components of the Bulletproof Buyer, how can those specifically be implemented with them to help them overcome their business? And then, as far as the back end of it, it was about who you're working with now that you can't get an offer accepted. Let me take a crack at that. Who have you spoken to that said they're not going to buy until the market softens? And who have you worked with recently that have just given up? So it was an opportunity to generate, like the last person I spoke to, she said that in total, she had about 17 people that she could refer over to me, Peggy. And by the way, I got a contract from Peggy 3 days after that event, strictly from that event. So I had a live contract. And then after that, she, like I said, she's sending over, actually they're doing either today or tomorrow. She wanted to prep everybody, but just 17 referrals in the live contract from just one of those agents so far. So I feel like there's a lot of potential here. One of the other agents I met with is a very, very small producer, 1 or 2 deals a year. But I have a meeting tomorrow with his broker, and that brokerage controls about $90 million a year in business. So depending on the meeting, if it's a good producer, I could double down on that. If not, who do they know who I could help? I mean, obviously I'll do what I can to help them, but always looking for the bigger fish, so to speak.
Yeah. And sorry to take it back. I know I'm kind of skipping around here, but what did you feel like was the biggest or most impactful thing in order to get people to show up for the event? So in terms of promotion, like what did you feel like was most effective?
The message that I dove down, kind of went down with everybody was just the problems we're going to solve. If you're having trouble getting your buyer's offers accepted, if you are having trouble dealing with buyer fatigue, I think that was a big point, that buyer fatigue thing. I don't know if I stole that from somebody or came up with it, but either way, the buyer fatigue thing was really big. And then the appraisal gap strategy is a huge piece of that. I probably got by far the most feedback on the appraisal gap piece of it than anything else. So in my promotion, it was just those 3 things. And then I also said, like, if you're struggling with these 3 problems, I'm going to teach you 5 proven techniques that have significantly improved in those areas. I find that in my research, giving people a defined number of bullet points, whether it's 3 or 5 or whatever, goes a long way in dialing people in, because they feel like they're going to walk away with real bullet points that they can implement, as opposed to just kind of a generic concept.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like a big, it's a psychology thing, something with our minds. We like numbers and we like to see that kind of thing. And that goes well into my point. I was going to say, you also have to make sure that when it seems like a little thing, but when you're titling this type of thing, you want to make sure that they know exactly what they're going to learn from the event. So if you title it something that's really kind of nebulous and they don't know exactly what you're going to be talking about, they're a lot less likely to say that they want to go, because they don't know if it's worth their time or not. So when you're making, whether it's your Facebook event page, just make sure that somewhere in there, whether it's the title or the description, you're giving them an exact idea of what you're going to be covering, what they'll be able to take from that, and the solutions that you'll be solving. That'll be really impactful for people showing up. Yep. We do have a question here. Can Tom share the video he did to send to agents to introduce his value proposition? Yeah, so Ron, Scott, if you don't mind, if we can send out a link to the Facebook Live.
Of course.
In the recap. Okay, yeah. So we'll include that in the follow-up email this week, just so that in case anyone was late here, it was the Bulletproof Buyer presentation. So it is his value proposition, is that he has a strategy to combat the struggles in the market right now. This was not Art of Home Ownership specific as far as his value proposition as an AOH partner, but that is also a great value proposition right now in the market. Is you have all of these tools to be able to make more confident homeowners. So this is not, black and white, one size fits all. This is the topic that you should be doing. You can get creative with it and do a lot of different topics, but this is kind of just the general strategy that we took.
Yeah, and I plan on doing another event on how to fix the inventory crisis in America. I plan on doing, which is all Revive. And then I plan on doing another event on I got to work on the title, but basically how to create lifelong clients, where I'm really going to talk about the superpowers of AOH with HomeBot and HomeBinder and those types of things.
Cool. Okay. All right. I love it. Does anyone have, Scott, any last words or tips for people, or does anyone have questions for Scott as far as his strategy with this Facebook Live session? or just anything about social media in general, because he does a really great job.
Well, we're waiting on those questions, Val.
Yes.
I would just, encourage people, like, just do it, right? Like right now, real estate's a sexy topic. Everybody's talking about real estate. So getting out there and saying something different than everybody else says is just going to work. But like Tom said, and like you've said, 100 times, it's all about the consistency. So just start doing it, and don't think about what this is necessarily going to do for your business in a week. Think about how this can impact your business for months and years to come.
Yeah. And the example that I use a lot is there's one broker that I know in the industry. He's very active on social media. And he told me at one point that, and he's been consistent for a long time. He told me that he had put an offer, or one of his clients had put an offer in on a home, and the seller's agent had just seen his name on social media a lot and knew that he was putting out really great value, knew what he was doing in the industry. And they ended up getting that offer accepted because they just noticed his name and knew who he was. So like I said, there is so many different pieces of value or things that you can gain from having an online presence. It's just so important to have that long-term mindset and be consistent with it. So I love that you said that, Scott, because that's
awesome.
It's great. It's perfect. Well, thank you so much. So for the second half here, stalking Scott on Facebook starting today. Great content. Hope you'll agree. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
I do think
yes.
that might steal away.
100%. I love that. Well, Scott, thank you so much. So for the second half here, we do have Jack from HomeBinder back with us today. We're going to be going over some strategies with HomeBinder and then allowing some Q&A. But Scott, thank you so much for jumping on. This was awesome. Please, everyone, go stalk Scott on Facebook. He puts out great content, Facebook Lives every day. Not that you have to do that, but consistency is key. Have a long-term mindset, and it'll do wonders for your business.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for getting us in on this meeting today. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Glad to have you.
So we have a set of agenda items I can share on the screen, then we can just start to walk through. We can jump right in, and in the spirit of efficiency, I'll start sharing my screen now. I think, obviously, if anybody doesn't see something they had expected today or would like to cover, don't hesitate to use the chat as always. Not going to spend a lot of time on number one. I think it really gets covered to a degree in number two. Which is all about messaging what HomeBinder is and why the home owner borrower should be paying attention. We want to talk a little bit about education, training awareness, two kind of like 200 or 300 level items, which is adding your public review link and setting up the mortgage coach integration if you happen to be a mortgage coach subscriber as well. We can cover past client setup. We get some questions about this. I mean, I think it's a pretty simple, straightforward one, but it's certainly one we wanted to add as part of the agenda. And then we've got Alec coming in for one-on-ones with anybody and everybody. So we'll make sure that everybody has the link one more time, shared on the heels of this or over the chat. But that's really what we're going to cover today. So if there's anything that you don't see represented here, please let us know, and we'll try to round it out in the next 20 minutes or so. So diving right in, for those of you that may have not seen or had a chance to attend one of these as of yet, there are a lot of analogies to describe HomeBinder. We've talked about Ancestry.com for the home. We've talked about electronic health record for the home, Carfax for the home. The one we tend to lean on a lot is the operating system for the home, with a little bit of LinkedIn for the home as well. And that's really relevant because of the businesses as you are supporting home ownership. So when the homeowner logs in, they have a view that's going to give them the opportunity to organize and manage anything and everything about their house. They're going to have some to-do list items that will include things like view your mortgage docs. They'll see the people supporting their home ownership. They'll see their home value. And what I think is most important out of this is really moving to the agenda 2 item, which is how do you talk to your borrowers about HomeBinder? And this is across a pretty wide range of the process. So what I'll jump to now is I'll come to the slide that we've covered before, which are these messaging points. And I'd encourage you to go back to, I think, the second presentation we did, the last one, which really covers this in more detail. But I just want to remind everybody that there's these key messaging points, 2 on the sales phase and 2 in the loan process closing phase, that we think are the most identifiable and important. Starting right up front with on your website and your marketing collateral, borrowers should hear and know that HomeBinder comes with doing business with you, and you're doing that marketing to real estate agents. Informing them that you offer HomeBinder at no cost. It's not available to them on their own. All part of this differentiation that comes with the sales process. And then deeper in the process, there's some messaging that we've already set up to remind them that HomeBinder is coming. So the good news is that piece of it is automated. But coming to point 4, as you're engaging with your borrowers one-on-one, talking them through HomeBinder again. And so I'm going to come back to these 3 key messaging points. Number 1, explaining what HomeBinder is in your own words. And I think everybody has to do that a little bit differently. I tend to do something like, with your mortgage, you're going to be getting HomeBinder. This is a tool to manage your home, comprehensive home management platform. You will get the opportunity to organize anything and everything about your home. They'll send you maintenance reminders about your house, centralize any of the documents you have, all in one place to give you peace of mind. And you keep. Second point, they don't pay for it and they can't get it off the street. So they know that it's something of value you're providing that you've already paid for. And even if they wanted it, they couldn't just sign up on a website somewhere. And number 3, to look out for this link, this email that's going to come with their ability to access it for the first time. What HomeBinder is, they can't get it on their own and there's no cost to them. And look out for that email. And those, those are most important, kind of encapsulated at stage 4, but you're using components of the describing of HomeBinder and the differentiation of HomeBinder at really all phases of this, these points and any other ones you have. So that's kind of carrying the point of the first couple agenda items on this. And then we wanted to move to agent education, training, awareness. So inside of HomeBinder and what we've provided you as well are some videos and some email blurb content that can be distributed to agents in your market. And so if you haven't done it yet, we certainly encourage and want you to be talking to the agents in the market that this is something you're doing to help homeowners as part of their home ownership. All the things we talked about before, what it is, how they can't get it on their own. And the whole goal is to build these deeper relationships with agents and to let them know that when borrowers come to you, home buyers come to you, they are going to get not only a great rate, not only a great experience, but they're going to be getting something additionally valuable. And of course, agents really, tend to love the seller report. So when you generally show this link, and this is included in the package as well, they get it immediately. Oh, so it does all this stuff. And then when you go to sell, you can create this report. Ah, I got it. Very cool. I could see how this would help sell a home faster for more money with fewer questions. Understood. And so if you haven't done that agent level marketing yet, education awareness yet, we would really encourage that and let us know how we can help. The resources are all there, but you do need to do the effort. You do need to go into your CRM, identify your agents, put in the link, put in the blurb, and blast it out. And of course, in any opportunities one-on-one, going to their offices, leverage the content as well. Running right down through here. Public review link, mortgage coach integration. So if you have a public review system that you do to collect 5-star reviews, inside of your account, when you log in, you have the ability to do this. So I'm gonna pick on one that I just have up right now. But here, when you log in, it'll look just a little bit different. But when you log in, you should see a profile, and you should see public review profiles and mortgage coach settings. So this is what we're going to touch on now. You can come in here and add a profile link around various networks. And if these don't represent ones you use, you can add another network. And then once identified, you can put in a label and a link. And this is not a replacement for the review system you have. This is to drive more people to use your review system so you collect more reviews at the end of the day. And we're really happy and pleased with this performance. We've collected, thousands, tens of thousands of additional reviews that probably businesses would not have received otherwise by adding this into HomeBinder. So not a replacement, just a chance to drive more people into the system that you already use today, in case they didn't click on the link over here or take you up on the email or the text message, or however you've already prompted them to give you a review. The second thing are mortgage coach settings. So here, there's a whole video about this that we'll also distribute, so I won't get into all the detail, but there's an API key in your mortgage coach email. You put these two things in, and then binders that get created will have the mortgage coach effectively widget next to home value estimate inside of HomeBinder. Otherwise, this just doesn't appear. So anybody that's a mortgage coach subscriber, to get even more value from mortgage coach and to give more opportunity for your borrowers to engage with it, we certainly want you to take advantage of this. There's no cost to add this. It just simply works as part of the overall package of the platform, and it works in 3 ways. Number one, the borrower can come in here and they can drive this, which will then notify you, the loan officer. Option 2, by having it in here, it will start to run automatically every single year, prompting the borrower around a TCA report. And number 3, you can actually come in here and drive the bus and message to the borrower if you don't want the system to just wait a full year. So 3 ways it works, and we've just been so delighted to work with the team at Mortgage Coach to help make that happen. So that's been wonderful. Past client setup. We've had a number of questions about this. I'm going to give a very kind of short answer because it's already packaged with the AOH folks. They already have the link, the instructions, and how to do it. But if your questions are, how do I drive this message of HomeBinder as being available now to people I've done business with, it's all packaged inside of AOH right now. So if you have questions about this, let us know, let the folks at AOH know. They can send you the blurb, send you the link. At the end of the day, you still have to send the message out yourself, but the content is there, the link is there, how to, and we're here to help make that happen, to make sure nobody you've ever done business with doesn't have access to HomeBinder. And then lastly, setting up a one-on-one time with Alec. So you can email Alec, just alec@homebinder.com. You can hit him up on, and I apologize here, I thought, let me just make sure what we have. Here we go. And you just add his email as well. So we would, welcome the opportunity to do one-on-ones with everybody, and so we'll get this link around, or you can just feel free to type it into your browser and find a time in his calendar, and he'll spend 30 minutes getting into a higher level of fidelity and detail, answering any questions you may have about HomeBinder. So that is a very quick kind of 12-minute run through of our agenda items today. I know there's some questions in chat, and I'm just opening that up now.
It looks like I think Alec has been all over the chat and answering questions. So I think the one question that did come through was, do you have to be an enterprise client with Mortgage Coach in order to get that integration? And the answer was no, you do not have to be. So hopefully that answers your question, Ron, about accessibility for the other features of Mortgage Coach. That might be a question for their team if it's outside of this integration. But this is awesome. And we'll make sure that Alex Calendly link or scheduling link it's both in the Facebook group, and we'll send it out in the Friday email as well to make sure that you get all this information. But this was a great run through, Jack. Is there let's open it up to questions if people want to raise their hand and have questions about just general HomeBinder information. Or I'm sorry, Jack, I didn't mean to cut you off if you weren't done with the whole presentation.
Nope, Val, you read the room. That was
I'm like shutting you down.
Really trying to just keep it compressed today. I know everybody's already been on for a half an hour before I got in. So I'll just follow the lead of anybody.
Awesome.
And then keep that offering open that we can always do the one-on-one.
Cool. And for anyone who didn't see, if you do want to book some time with Alec, his meeting link is in the chat. So be sure to take advantage of the one-on-ones. But again, if you have questions right now for Jack, go ahead and raise your hand or put it in the chat and we can knock those out. Jack, where are you located again?
So I'm just north of or west of Boston, about 10 miles outside the city. I often say Revolutionary Warville, Lexington and Concord kind of area.
Okay.
The Patriots Day here is a big deal. People dressing up as redcoats and.
Wow, that's awesome. We have Jared. I think Jared's on here. He just started on our team. He's from Boston area too.
Oh, awesome.
You guys are probably in the same neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's not that big. New England is a small place. I think we fit all of New England inside of Texas. But the only other thing I guess I'd offer here, if I just don't see any questions and we can just wrap. I realize that there's a bit of a distinction. If you are a Neo Home Loans AOH subscriber, there's some conversations that are the way things work and the way things work in Neo. It's a little bit different, and we won't get into any of the detail today. But I think that's probably a good place, and probably is evident by the number of Neo folks that have reached out to Alec one-on-one just to kind of cover that, the specificity around workflow and process and things like that. We can always get into that separately. I always come back to sort of my closing message, which is the three things: just explaining HomeBinder, reminding them that they can't get it on their own, and there's no cost to them to use it. You're paid for it, and to look out for that link. And those three things done consistently over time really produce the type of value and results of the homeowners being excited about it, engaging with the tool, and having a long-term vision. So you're using it here and now to market, and you're using it long-term to keep those borrowers close to you. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I
think, sorry, go ahead.
No, we can close it at that.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think that everyone on here is also used to that, or should be used to it, and very familiar with setting those expectations with borrowers, because it's the same thing when it comes to art of home ownership. As people are going to be leery if you're trying to give them something that is really valuable. They think that there's some sort of catch, or they have to be paying for it. So we always just say, the more that you can set expectations with them and tell them that this is free to them, tools that they will have access to through as long as they're in their home, that's going to really allow them to use it at a higher level, because they'll know exactly why they have access to it, how it helps them, and can add value to their homeowner journey. So that's great. Great message, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the time, Val and team. We'll look forward to obviously continuing to do some of these periodically, and in the interim, we'll do one-on-ones. And I hope everybody has some nice summer plans as we get to Memorial Day weekend and beyond. That's right. Well, thank you so much, Jack. We appreciate your time. And thank you all for jumping on today. And we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.